Let me tell you something that is surprising. In 1979, Awolowo had trackers for ballot boxes. Sowore. Sowore, former presidential candidate of the AAC, has stated that Obafemi Awolowo and the Unity Party of Nigeria, UPN, had mechanism in place to track ballot boxes during the 1979 presidential election. He said this was one of the things that helped Awolowo to win the popular vote in the election. In a video Sowore shared, he said the reason why Awolowo did not become president then was because the Supreme Court ruled that Awolowo did not secure at least 25% of the vote in 2/3 of the states, which was a constitutional requirement at the time. Sowore stated that, in his view, Awolowo clearly won the presidency in 1979. In Sowore's words, he said, "Let me tell you something that will shock you. As far back as 1978 and 1979, Awolowo and the UPN people had trackers for ballot boxes. Yes, that was how he was able to win the popular vote. And then they had to use the courts to say he did not win the 2/3. It's always courts they are using now. Majority because Awolowo clearly won the presidency in 1979. Okay. Samuel Dada says Sowore is wrong. In number, MPN had more votes. In state, MPN won more states. Okay. Christopher says failed presidential candidate. Sowore, keep crying. Samuel Falabi says very correct. Nigeria corrupt leaders has been using compromised judiciary to settle themselves in this country. Exactly. Even till now, that's what they are still using. Thank God some of the actors of that crime to humanity are still alive today to smell the odor of their evil. If they have allowed things to work out the way God designed it, we wouldn't have had today's mess. As it were, whenever I see those people restlessness today, I laugh at them. They don't have rest in their old age. Who knows if they will have in their graves? Tabadada says Sowore is very correct. I was in Kaduna in 1979. FEDECO, through Radio Kaduna, announced many places where Awolowo won. Suddenly, the states were forbidden to stop announcing results, that all results must go to Lagos where it will be announced. When that of Kaduna was announced in Lagos again, Awolowo did not win one single vote. We were all surprised. Yeah, we were all surprised. Akinola says, some of you should be so inquisitive and discerning in mind. This is not about chronological age at all. If a child doesn't know the history, he must have heard the narrative, which invariably becomes the father of all histories. Awolowo won, but his Yoruba kinsmen like Obasanjo, Abiola, Adisa, Akinloye, Richard Akinlide betrayed just as most Eastern governors acted against Nnamdi Kanu today. Emmanuel President says, I love this man, you are correct. They said, OBJ said a man from Yoruba and Ogun will replace from Yoruba and Ogun as president of Nigeria. Because of what Nigeria, see us today now. God will judge them. As Sam Marabi says, it is not that I know Sowore is nothing but a moron. I is nothing but a moron. Are you talking about an election in which MPN had an alliance with NPP? The parties holding sway in both the north and east respectively. How could he have won an election which was clearly a tribal election in which his score had about 25% of the total vote? She says, I will not doubt it because even as at that time, Awolowo's brain was working and more calculating than computer of nowadays. Okay? David Oluwa says, blatant lies. UPN won 25% in 6 states, namely Kwara, Lagos, Bendel, Ondo, Ogun, and Oyo states. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Anambra, and Imo State, Aminu Kano, PRP, won Kaduna and Kano. Ibrahim Waziri, GNPP, won Gongola. 25% in Cross River, Bauchi, Borno, Plateau, and Kano states. Shagari, MPN won 25% in 12 states. Awolowo didn't say he won. He was asking for electoral college. How old was Sowore then? Prince Adejosi says they have been rigging Nigeria's elections since the first election in Nigeria. Yes, the British colonial leaders then rigged the first election against Chief Obafemi Awolowo because they believe they will not be able to control him if he becomes the president due to his education and high intelligence. They prefer the Fulanis who are less educated and were not even interested in independence of Nigeria. They used the Fulani to control Nigeria even after independence. That's why they call themselves born to rule. Yes, that's why they call themselves born to rule. And Musiton says, with what I'm saying, Yoruba should be very careful in order not to be scapegoat at the end of everything, because the moment the Northerners resolve issues with the Southerners, it might be a big deal that will be too imperative to expedite. South Africa says the video Sowore Jagunlabi story. With Pablo Escobar, whom you call Tinubu, allow such scenarios. Trackers for what? On do or die politics. See, that ugly old line Mohammed, don't find no. Your boy is not very handsome. Now handsome we won't chop. Abba Boniface says Awolowo may have won popular votes in Lobo State, but he performed dismally in all of the southern states, all of the northern states. How then did he win the presidency? Those of us that witnessed the 1979 elections are still alive, so don't start changing the narrative or recreate history. UPN was roundly defeated. Okay. God will say, so the courts have always been there for the highest bidder, which makes it senseless for anybody to go contesting elections in Nigeria when you don't know anyone in court or hasn't got enough money to buy your way out. Shame on Nigeria and her politicians. Hallelujah says, so you have joined lying to rascality. Now you have nearly got to ugly stage. Ibrahim says we have many rivers to cross to get a right for African continent and the black race. We must unite northern and southern Nigeria to liberate African continent and the black race. How do you unite? How are you supposed to unite? Since I think meanwhile there is no history in primary or secondary school curriculum anymore, for fear of knowing what happened during the independent era and how colonialism forcibly married the South and the North together without due consent rather for selfish purposes. Election rigging and corruption is Nigeria's birthright. Maybe smarting. Mentoring says the judiciary must change their uniform. This will help them develop a paradigm shift from colonial mentality to patriotic African mentality. The judiciary is the clog in the wheel of democracy and civilization in Nigeria. The courts have become kindergarten or playhouse for politics. It is now a mockery of heroism when people say go to court. Of course, if you say go to court now, like you're just wasting your time. What do you want to go and do in court? The chicken says, no, Sowore Awolowo cannot win presidential election. Even all Southwest people vote in. If be the case, what then is the use of those trackers, Abby? So, my listeners, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. Thank you for listening. See you some other time. Bye.